This is Horror Sucks. I'm Ashley Atkins, and today I'm using my own microphone.
I'm Carter Rhodes, and I helped her buy it and have my own mixer, so we should be sounding really good. There's like a 10% chance I'm going to be in your left earbud and Ashley's going to be in your right, but we're going to cross that bridge when we get to it.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to
Jonathan
W. from, where was it? Guitar City? No.
Guitar Center.
Shout out to Jonathan W. from Guitar Center for hooking us up with this sweet equipment and talking us through it.
Guitar City's way better, by the way.
I agree.
So, this week we are reviewing Ghost Ship, which is a 2002 horror movie, and Ashley and I both prepared facts. Nobody prepared a plot, so we are just going to wing it.
Absolutely. But before we do, we're just going to go over some things for some new people here, hopefully. How we do this thing is that we'll spend the first portion going over the plot of the movie. We'll give you some fun facts, and then we'll break into our favorite segment, the good and the bad, the spooky. And then we'll give a rating of the movie and talk about our overall impressions, and that's it.
So, the movie starts with, in 1962, on this cruise liner. It's just this dance they're having.
It's the captain's ball. It's like the final night of the cruise. It's like a big thing they do.
Mm-hmm. And it's just a nice, idyllic party, except a wire gets stretched really tight, and it swings across and cuts a whole bunch of people in half. And the movie then begins. It follows the salvage crew of Epps, Murphy, and then you kind of don't really need to know the rest of them. They finish towing a ship, and they're invited by a helicopter pilot who noticed a ship just adrift. And by salvage law, that means that they can salvage it. So they go with him, and ultimately they discover that it's a ship that had disappeared from the 1960s, where everyone on board just disappeared, and the ship was lost for decades. And naturally, it's worth a ton of money. So They board, and eventually weird things happen to them. Going into detail about it isn't super important.
No, just like weird things, it doesn't pick up until later.
Mm-hmm. They see a girl, they hear people talking, saying like someone's first name that they thought nobody knew. Eventually they find gold, and they decide, screw the ship, because it's sinking slowly. We're not going to get it back to shore. Let's just take the gold. That's got to be worth a ton of money.
Which, same. I would take the gold.
It's the smart thing to do. However, their ship, the Arctic Warrior, has a freak supernatural propane malfunction and explodes. So they're trapped on board the Antonio Graza, and they need to fix it in order to stay alive. And one by one, they start kind of going insane. The girl is revealed to be a ghost who tries to warn Epps. Murphy gets drunk with the ghost of the captain and eventually attacks Epps. Greer is seduced by a sexy Italian singer, and she tricks him into falling down an elevator shaft. It doesn't make much more sense in the movie.
No, they just slowly start to die one by one.
Mm-hmm. And eventually, it's revealed, and everywhere they go, they're finding evidence that people died, and it's just all over the place. They find rat poison in the kitchen. They find bullet holes in the swimming room. They find people cut in half from the wire.
Yep.
And so just, it's not clear what happened.
And then they find someone was hung.
Mm-hmm. Hanged, technically.
Is it hanged?
It is.
Oh, okay.
People are hanged. I don't know why. That's just one of the English things.
I don't like it. Yes, sorry. So some people were hanged. Some people were... Basically, no one died from a mysterious circumstance. Everything was purposeful.
Yeah. And it was very confusing. There's no, like... It wasn't like everyone got shot. Everyone seemed to die in a different way. Someone cut their wrists in the bathroom. So, eventually it's revealed the girl following Epps, the ghost girl, shows her a vision of what happened. And everyone on the boat is involved in this sort of massacre. They're killing everyone in different ways, and they keep turning on each other and betraying each other and murdering each other, presumably for the gold. And it's ultimately revealed that the person behind it is this supernatural being called the ferryman, and his job is...
Was that his name?
Technically it is, but...
Oh, okay. I didn't remember.
So it's Jack, the person who lured them out to the ship.
It makes me think of the Candyman.
Yeah. So he is a supernatural being that corrupts people and causes them to kill each other. And he's going to fill up the boat with souls, and then when it's done, he's going to take it to hell. And the reason he brought the crew out there was because the ship, being adrift for so long, was starting to rust, and he needed to repair it. So in a final showdown between Epps and Jack, he offers her a chance to just fix the boat and leave with her life, but she chooses to destroy the boat instead, and she swims away as the souls are released from the boat, and the very end of the movie is her being picked up by another boat. She's ashore being pushed into an ambulance, and a crew looking similar to hers leads the gold back onto the boat, and the last shot is Jack reborn as a member of that crew, presumably
I wouldn't
going to
say
do the
he's
same thing.
reborn as that crew. He probably just convinced them to take the gold on the boat, and he's following them up.
Metaphorically reborn.
He's a demon creature. I don't think blowing up is going to kill him.
That's why I said metaphorically.
Okay. All right.
So your turn.
My turn. Oh, so I've got some fun facts I'm very excited to share. I'll start with the basics. The film was directed by Steve Beck and was written by Mark Hanlon. Beck is known for one other movie, which is 13 Ghosts, and Ghost Ship appears to be his final film. So the film stars Gabriel Byrne, who has appeared in a lot of things, but is most known for Unusual Suspects.
It's Usual Suspects.
Thank you. Most known for Usual Suspects.
I'm keeping that, by the way.
Stop! No! He's also in Hereditary and The End of Days. It's also starring Julia Margulies, who is also in Snakes on a Plane. She's the star of The Good Wife, and she's also in ER. She was also in a single episode of my favorite TV show, Murder, She Wrote, starring Angela Lansbury. Also starring Ron Ellard, who was in Law & Order SVU, Sleepers, Drop Dead Fred, and ER.
At the time, I believe he was in a relationship with Julianne Margulies as well.
Yes, they were dating when they met on ER and started dating, and they broke up a year after doing Ghost Ship.
Possibly as a result of Ghost Ship.
I like to believe so. Then we also have Desmond Harrington, who is most notably known from Gossip Girl, playing Jack Bass. He's also in Dexter. He's also in a movie called Massholes, which is indeed about Massachusetts. It also stars Isaiah Washington, who's from Grey's Anatomy, and Carl Urban, who's from Lord of the Rings, The Boys, and Thor Ragnarok. So the movie has a score of 16 on Rotten Tomatoes and an audience score of 37.
That's too harsh.
I thought so too. I don't think it's that bad of a movie. So the movie was kind of aimed to be The Shining, but on a cruise liner. And in 2016, the website Coming Soon named the opening scene one of the greatest in horror film history, which I don't know if I 100% agree with, but it was a really good scene.
We're for sure going to talk about it.
Yeah.
So, and we're going to talk about it soon. So let's talk about it in a bit.
Definitely. So there was a lot of shark activity while filming, which stressed out the actors. In fact, during filming, there was a feeding frenzy that broke out, which brought 800 to 1,000 sharks within 50 yards of shore while they were filming in Australia.
Julianne Margulies also mentioned that she saw an Australian paper that mentioned, like, hero actor survives shark attack. And she's like, oh, I guess I'm a hero if you say so. She didn't even know that there was a shark that day.
Speaking of Julianne Margulies, she has publicly disowned this movie.
What does that mean?
That means
she said it sucked?
Yeah. I think she just doesn't want to be involved. When she agreed to do the film, It was originally a psychological thriller about having too much of something, and that which drives people crazy. But when she got off the plane in Australia, it was a different script, and she said, suddenly I was in a really awful horror movie, and it was shocking. But by then it was too late for any of the actors to back out.
With all due respect to Miss Margulies, I don't think that the script change. I read the original script. It's not like...
You read the original script?
Not in its entirety.
Oh, okay.
But it's not so crazy different that she got trapped into it. It's a very similar movie.
All I know is she does not like this movie and does not want to be associated. Which is why we're requesting that she appear on our podcast.
Yes, please.
What else? Oh, so the ship was designed after another Italian ocean liner that sank in the 1950s after colliding with a liner. They were named very similarly, but the names aren't that important. Also, speaking of the ship, originally they wanted to have a full-size ship, but instead, based on filming location and also like camera usage, they weren't able to, so they had a like 35-foot scale model, and then the only real boat used was the tugboat.
The Arctic Warrior.
Yes. But in the in the poster, it actually features the Queen Mary as a stand-in, which is actually a ghost ship. I don't know if you ghost ships are real.
So ghost ship, that's just a haunted ship, right?
No.
Okay.
So there's two...
Well, I thought the Queen Mary specifically was just a haunted
ship. The Queen Mary
okay.
is a haunted ship, but she was actually found with all of her crew and passengers mysteriously missing. Mm-hmm. So a ghost ship is defined by two things. One is that they're found adrift where the whole crew and passengers are missing, and the second is that it appears mysteriously. Mm-hmm. So it's like a ghost. So yeah, the Queen Mary is a notable ghost ship. You can tour it and spend the night there, I believe, which I want to do someday. So also in the movie, they refer to another boat called the Lorelei, and actually there is a German poem called Die Lorelei, which is
Die Lorelei, I believe.
Sure, Die Lorelei, which is about a siren who lures boats and sailors to their death. So I thought that was a pretty good lore.
Die is German for the.
Okay.
So that's the only reason I corrected you.
Good to know.
Yeah.
So this movie was one of the largest visual effects contracts done in Australia. And the ballroom scene where the ballroom kind of comes back to life around Grieve is Greer.
You got his name wrong. I don't know what to tell you.
It's my turn this week. So the ballroom comes back together around Greer, and it took 80 layers of filming between two sets. Some of the shots were sped up, some were slowed down or played in reverse. All for a 10-second shot. But I will say, I think it came out pretty good. It has a similar plot to the video game Man of Medan. These are not my notes, by the way.
Yeah,
I've transitioned into Carter's notes.
I gave Ashley my notes so that she could read it. So Man of Medan, actually that kind of says it all. It's a game similar to Until Dawn that has a very similar plot.
Carter wants to read the last fact.
Yes. So as part of the promotion for the movie, there was the studio sponsored a sweepstakes with the grand prize being the Ghost Ship prize package, featuring a Ghost Ship baseball hat, a spinning skull mug, a Ghost Ship soundtrack, and a Ghost Ship shower CD player. If anyone listening has a Ghost Ship shower CD player, contact us on Instagram and I will buy it off of you. That sounds incredible. All my life I've not been listening to CDs in the shower. And if I did, it would have been with just a generic brand instead of a Ghost Ship CD player, and that's unacceptable. I'm not going back.
I also would like to say, what is a spinning mug? Because I tried to look it up what it is, and I can't find it. So if you also have the Ghost Ship spinning mug, I would like to see a picture. You can send it to us over Instagram as well. Also, the second place winners got the baseball cap and the mug, which honestly, like, I feel like besides this,
the CD player was the selling point.
Yes, of course, but those are still like the better options of prizes. I would have thought it was like, second place, here's a CD. So how would you listen to it in the shower?
So one final fact, the director, Steve Beck, actually credits the September 11th attacks as an influence on the movie because originally it was a nuanced psychological thriller and it became more of a slasher because they wanted a more clearly defined good versus evil. So if you watch Ghost Ship and think that it's a bad movie, blame Al-Qaeda.
All those Rotten Tomato people can blame Al-Qaeda. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the good, the bad, and the spooky, starting with...
The good. Dun, dun, dun. So, I want to say conceptually, I just love the idea because it's kind of like The Shining at sea. Cruise ships have a very similar vibe as a hotel of just, you don't know how many people have been there. You know, it has plenty of secrets, like all kinds of sketchy stuff happens on cruise ships, same as hotels.
Yeah. I loved the concept. I thought it was really good. I loved the ghosts kind of appearing, and it definitely had that very Shining feel. That, you know, they referenced it too with the main ghost character wearing like a similar blue dress to the twins. It gave that kind of vibe while sticking to like the 1960s poshness of the opening scene. So I liked that. But
the opening scene also was very like the end of the Shining movie, the New Year's when everyone's celebrating. It was a lot like that. Is I don't know, I guess a party is all I'm saying. But
it definitely was like that. Also, the opening credits kind of leading into the first scene was really cool because actually what they did is they made it seem like a period, like 1960s kind of opening with these bubbles, and it was very like kind of took you out of it a little, but once the movie started, you understood why, and I thought that was a really great concept to do to open the movie.
So I would love to talk about the opening scene because
let's do it.
That
Buckle
was
up.
Awesome.
It was so good.
So it opens like we described. It's just an average party, and it keeps cutting to this wire getting tighter and tighter until it just slices across a crowd of people, cutting them in half.
It's way more dramatic than that, though.
The tension was really good, and everyone's dancing except for this one little girl who eventually joins in, and the wire snaps and it cuts across everyone. Everyone stops dancing and the music stops, and there's just a couple seconds of just everyone frozen. And the way that they captured the people cut in half was so cool. Like someone had a glass of champagne that split in half. People's clothing fell apart because it was cut.
Someone's like jacket like fell off, and so you just saw their torso. But also they zoomed in on the slice, and it was like kind of bloody on the edges, but like it wasn't profusely bleeding or anything like that. It was so cool.
And the little girl was the only one who survived it because she was too short and the wire didn't hit her. And she just looks up at the captain whose head gets cut in half, and she screams. It was really incredible. I don't think there was a word of English spoken in the entire opening scene.
I don't think so. So I know the actress who plays this singer doesn't speak a word of English. So part of it, she only speaks in Italian because she knows Italian. And that's also why she has so few words. But yeah, no, it was there wasn't any dialogue because there really didn't need to be. It was just glamorous, and then it's just literally sliced in half.
It was really good. The movie in general does an excellent job of tension. Like, there are a lot of scenes where they're going around in the ship, and the timing of it is really good, where one character is about to get jump scared, and it just really makes you wait and builds the tension. It was impressive for such a not great movie.
Yeah, the thing is, like, execution in terms of concept was, I think, where it kind of falls flat. But Singularity, there were a lot of great moments and a lot of great scenes that were shot, which I really liked.
The pacing as well, like in horror movies, a lot of times you'll get characters that are just like stupidly in denial about ghosts, just ignoring the facts. And then there's characters who react right away, like something kind of mild happens and they're like, I'm getting off this thing. The movie was paced really well that matched the tension, where the characters became aware of the fact that they were in danger as the doors to escape metaphorically shut on them. So it didn't occur to them that they had to leave until it was too late to do so. You couldn't yell at them to just run away.
It eased very much into like the ghosts, which I really enjoyed. I did think there were some moments that were kind of slow, or not necessarily slow, just like I wanted more action, but I'm not complaining. I really liked the ghosts. I thought the look of the ghosts, like you could tell they were a ghost without making them look ridiculous, which I liked. There was some special effects that were a bit questionable in terms of the ghost, but overall, like looking at the characters, you could tell who was a ghost and who wasn't, and I thought that was really well done. I also liked that like the ghosts weren't the bad guy. Well, one of the ghosts was, but for overall,
well, technically, it wasn't a ghost.
No, Francesca.
Oh yeah, I guess you're right.
She caused.
Well, yeah, you're right. She was marked. So
yeah,
the characters are like marked by Jack.
Yeah, the ghosts are marked. Basically, they're marked if they've sinned, and if they've sinned, they go where he goes, and if they haven't, they don't go. And so they're unaffected by him, and which means they can help out the crew, like the little girl, Katie.
So I really liked some of the characters. I really liked the characters because they were admittedly simple and people complained about it, but they were just, archetypes. And Greer just wanting to get back to his fiancée isn't groundbreaking, but it doesn't really need to be. They didn't reinvent the wheel. They didn't make these complex characters.
And I don't
it's
think
a horror movie. No one is that.
No, I liked how simple they kept the characters. That being said, the characters are in my bad because I just didn't like them.
I mean, I'm not saying they were likable. I just thought they were somewhat well done. Epps was just immediately the coolest person I've ever seen. They're dragging this, like, sinking oil rig behind the ship, and she's like, I gotta patch it up. And so she, like, zip lines to where they're towing it, drops in the water, and seals it with a underwater welding. That was just the coolest thing I've ever seen.
It was really cool. That scene was really good. She overall, I think, was a cool character and really redeemed the movie for me.
The characters use like salvage language, but it's very much not like some writer picked up a book on salvage and was just reading off terms from a glossary. They very much had a feel of that they'd been doing it for years, that they were experienced, and they didn't do this one thing that I absolutely hate, which is when a character will say something, not even jargon, just like with words that aren't totally common, and it'll be like, in English, Poindexter, and they'll simplify it, and it's just so dumb, because 9 times out of 10 you can tell from the context. There's like one scene where it's like, it's gonna take us 3 days to build it because we gotta do this, and they go into detail about what they're doing, and one of the characters goes, what does that mean? And he goes, it means we're on a tight timetable. I like that. It was a quick summary without being insultingly simple.
Jargon was simple. It was good. Easy to follow. One of the things I liked is that there was kind of some humor put through that I think was done pretty well. Specifically with the two characters. What were their
Dodge
names?
and Munder. I have them down on my good list too.
Yeah, I felt they were a great comic relief without being ridiculous. They have a couple moments where they just like, it's like, haha, but then it's not too much.
Yeah. They were clearly pals, and that helped humanize the characters and make them a little bit more likable.
Yeah, definitely. But I just liked how the humor was placed. It definitely broke up the film.
Jack, also, while we're speaking of the characters, that movie, upon rewatching, did a really good job of capturing his, he's always kind of there. You never see him enter or leave a room, but he's always there when something interesting happens. I liked it. They gave him a good kind of otherworldly feel.
He also, you definitely got, weird vibes from him right away.
Overall, the acting was really solid.
Yeah.
This was one of the strangest casts I've ever seen because
they're weirdly B-level actors, but also A-level actors. Yeah. They're kind of in between because I know Juliana Margulies is a pretty well known at this point. But the rest of them, I was like, I know this, I've seen this person before, but like can't put a name on them.
It was the most amount of B-list actors I've ever seen in a movie. Like, tertiary characters were played by people I recognized. Speaking of acting, I want to give a special shout out to the actor who played Jack.
Desmond Harrington.
Desmond Harrington. He did an outstanding job of looking like this lost helicopter pilot who everyone was kind of walking over because he didn't know what he was doing. And he was in control the entire time. That was an outstanding job.
I thought his acting was incredible because in my good, I have like his switch where he kind of just, with a flip of a switch, just like immediately is like, goes from lost helpless guy to, you know, scary guy who's going to destroy you. You know, he does a good job. It's incredible.
I am a huge fan of the reveal where the girl shows Epps everything that happened on the ship. I don't know if I mentioned it, but it was just chaos. Everyone was killing everyone for random reasons because they were being compelled to by Jack. And that was the perfect explanation as to why there were so many different ways that people were dying. There was no pattern. You couldn't figure it out until the reveal where you discover that that's because there was no pattern. There was just a massacre. I loved the reveal.
It was really good. I initially didn't like it because it had a pop song, a rock song playing, but it also had the song that they were listening to at the party playing, and it kind of initially in the beginning it was clashed a lot, but then as the rock song kind of faded in more, I got on board and loved it.
I have the music during that scene on my bad list.
Yeah.
But overall, I did like the scene.
I agree.
And then lastly, there's a scene in which they're going through the captain's log and they find this dusty digital watch. And they comment that it hadn't been invented in 1962. And that, to me, I really liked how that hinted at a larger world of people being lured onto the boat and killed without having something as cheesy as discovering all their bodies. Is you could tell that people had been there before and people had failed to leave the boat alive.
So that actually kind of leads into my next point, because I really liked the symbolism of the gold, because when they initially find it, they connect those people that have come onto the boat with the gold in terms of like people finding it, but someone is trying to keep it from them and everyone gets killed by trying to take the gold, and they think the gold has something to do with it, but they don't quite understand it fully, because the gold is just like a trap set by Jack versus like they think someone stole the gold and that they're trying to prevent people from taking it, versus he's just using it as a lure. I thought that was kind of a good, I don't know if I'm exactly phrasing how I want to say, but
I think I understand.
Okay, good. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. Are you done?
I'm done.
Oh, I have more.
Okay, go ahead.
So
The floor is yours.
Oh, well, great. I do have a couple scenes that I really liked. Towards the beginning, when they just get on the boat, Julianne's character, Epps falls into the pool because she sees Kate, and she hits her head.
Kate's the little girl ghost,
yes,
by the way.
Yes, sorry. Kate sees the little girl, and she hits her head on the bottom of the empty pool. When she lifts her head up, it looks like there's blood, and it just kind of like seeps into a hole. And then as she gets out of the pool and they're not looking at it, the pool fills with blood, or it fills with water, but they see all these wine corks, so they think it's just wine. I thought it was just wine, but they don't see the pool filling, and I thought that was a cool scene. And then also when they're in the laundry room, they open, Epps and Jack try and like open a door, and Epps is like, hey, you know, like stay close so you can help me shut it. They open the door and it just floods out, and all these bodies just flood out with it, and I really, really liked that. And that's all I have. So let's get into the bad.
Okay, so because it's the most topical, I would like to say the pool filling with blood. I thought that was
like
such
it?
a dumb scene. The characters don't notice it. They don't think it's wine. I don't know where you got that from.
They saw the corks.
That was bullet casings.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Oh.
Were you watching it with your glasses on?
Yes, I was.
All right.
Was I paying full attention? Probably not.
Okay, yeah, so it was bullet casings. And they just
That
didn't
changes
miss the
everything.
blood. That was just a dumb scene, which points to another larger issue I have with the movie, which is that most of it is just stupidly cheesy.
Yeah.
There's the pool filling with blood for no reason during what was a perfectly tense scene already. There was no reason to...
I'm a big fan of cheese, so I liked it.
So between that, there's when they get on the ship, you see this girl, Katie, had a toy in the beginning that she was playing with that you could rearrange the letters on. When they got on, it shifted to say welcome aboard.
That was stupid.
Cheesy.
I didn't care for that.
There's like, right after the reveal, Murphy is shown, he drowned in like an aquarium thing, and he has a photo of Jack from like 60 years earlier when he was brought onto the boat in the first place. That was super cheesy. Because we saw the reveal. We didn't need...
Yeah.
I didn't...
I think if the photo had been revealed earlier, then it would have, in my opinion, played better, but we already knew he was the bad guy by then.
Or even just with less fanfare, because,
Yeah.
we knew he was the bad guy.
So one of the things that I didn't like, Kate, was in the opening scene, Katie not dying by the slice, because it didn't make sense to me. Because everyone else was sliced in the midsection, and Katie's not that short. How old do you think she was? I think she was supposed to be young, but the actress was probably 12.
Yeah, she was.
So, and she's dancing with the sea captain, who is average height, and she comes up to about his chin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like a little bit smaller than that. And so everyone else is sliced in the torso, except for the captain, who's sliced in the head. And Kate, it misses her. And I'm just like, that doesn't make sense height-wise. Like, it should have got her at the shoulders, maybe the neck. Like, she should have died. So I was kind of annoyed with that. I appreciated the tension it created of her not dying, but if that's the case...
I feel like I cannot overstate how cheesy a lot of the movie was.
Yeah.
It lacked a lot of taste at times.
It did lack taste. One of the other things that I didn't like was still about Katie, the little girl. Eeps sees... Eps.
That was one of the worst mispronunciations of a character's name yet.
Listen.
It's just one E. E-P-P-S.
Yeah, but every time I see it, I think of Eek.
Eek is not spelled like that.
You don't live in my head. You don't know what goes on there. Okay, so one issue I have is how Epps figured out Katie's name, because she saw her multiple times. And so she looks at the passenger log and just kind of scans down and goes, "Oh, you're Katie." And I was like, hold up. Oh, what?
It wasn't very scientific.
No, it just was like, I understand for the plot why, but it was just like, I thought it was stupid that she just happened to look at the log and it was the first name she found.
The music, this is a diversion.
You're good.
Okay.
I'm done.
The music was really inconsistent. Like in the reveal scene, it was just this weird rock song that had no place there.
They were apparently really proud of their music because you could win the CD if you won first place. I didn't care for the music. This is, I think, the first movie where I actually noticed the music, which means that it was out of place. So that's disappointing. Okay, so the other issue I have was I did not like the character of Grieve.
It's Greer.
I wrote down Grieve. That's why I said it that time. That was my fault. Sorry. I didn't like the character of Greer. I thought it was along the cheesiness line where it was just like constantly was talking about his fiance, but then like the moment that another woman showed interest, even if she is a ghost, he was like, yup, I'm down. And he also just fell for like the stupidest trap
He fell for some Wile E. Coyote shit. She stood naked by the elevator.
So Francesca, who is the female singer, she's a ghost, and he doesn't even see her. He sees her picture and makes a comment about her body, and
which we respect women here, so we won't repeat it.
Right, but he makes the comment about her body and then goes, but it doesn't compare to you, and he pulls out a picture of the fiance, who I think it's just folded on her face, but like, okay, no comments because we don't want to disrespect her, but
because we respect women here.
Right. But then he's like, he starts talking to her fairly quickly and assumes that she's there. He can like kind of hear singing, but then she slowly starts undressing herself and he's like, well,
he's like, it-
he is. He makes a comment. He's like, it's not cheating if it's a ghost, right? Which I thought was, it was just the stupidest line. That's not your line.
You're going to have to wait with the rest of the audience to hear.
I just want to make sure I'm not saying a line before it's time. Okay, good. And then he just kind of follows her as she's slowly undressing. And then he's like, oh yeah, we're going to do this, as she walks to a open door that leads to a cliff.
It was an open elevator shaft, which they had already established.
Yes.
Empty, like,
yeah, it was an empty open elevator shaft, and he just falls into it so easily. She like poses, and he goes to hug her, and she's a ghost, so he falls just right through her and lands at the bottom of the elevator shaft. Wile E. Coyote, just Bugs Bunny level of like painting a door onto a brick wall and running into it. Talk about cheesy. It was rough to watch.
It just, like, I wish I could have seen things from his point of view, because it just, like, his naked lady sensors went off, and then he just didn't see anything, including the open elevator shaft behind her.
The whole scene where the captain gets drunk and starts seeing one of the crew members dies when the boat explodes, the tugboat. Mm-hmm. And he gets drunk because it's kind of established that he doesn't drink, so we can assume that he's a recovering alcoholic. But he then starts seeing the ghost of the crew member who died, and starts going nuts and like kind of attacking them and whatnot. And it was just not good. I didn't find it very. I wouldn't say it was untasteful. I think it was cheesy, as we've been saying.
Yep. This one, in comparison, is a little bit more nitpicky, but when Jack is revealed to be the supernatural being, his limitations are extremely unclear. Like, he can shapeshift, and he's immortal. He's lived all this time. He got shot in the chest with a shotgun and, like, played dead. He didn't even have to heal. And later, he's like choking her, and she stabs him and kicks him off, and he like recoils in pain. Yeah, so it's just unclear what his abilities are, if he can be physically pushed and stuff, but able to survive a shotgun blast, but still vulnerable to pain. He wasn't a very clear, I don't know, thing.
My last bad, which I don't know if it's a bad for the movie versus just my personal tastes, but the scene where, what are the two?
Dodge and Munder.
Thank you. The scene where Dodge and Munder are in the kitchen eating the beans and it turns to maggots. I can't do anything like food horror related, so I did not like that.
Wouldn't that be under your spooky then?
I wouldn't say it was spooky. It just makes me sick.
Yeah.
Like, I needed to stop watching for a minute and drink some water.
It was pretty gross.
It was gross.
I actually liked it.
You liked it? Well,
yeah. Well, because they were like eating it very hesitantly, and then they're like, "Oh my god, this is delicious."
The scene was good. It just was like, what? Like, the thing is, you knew it wasn't spooky because you knew it was coming. The lead-in was pretty good,
but they were also cutting to other people, and so the tension kind of bled into it. Where you might know that you might be able to predict what's happening with them, but you don't know what's happening with the other people, and the tension doesn't just turn off when the camera cuts away. So
Yeah. No, it was a well shot scene. It just was like, I don't like the idea of eating bugs or maggots.
Simply do not eat bugs or maggots and you'll be all set.
I can't watch other people do it either. All right, that's all I have.
So, does that mean we're ready to talk about the spooky?
I believe we are.
Okay. The spooky! So, I thought in general the jump scares were pretty good. They were sudden and violent, but they weren't cheap, which is odd considering how cheesy most of this movie is.
I think out of all the movies we've watched so far, excluding the original Scream, this has the best jump scares.
Mm-hmm. There's one scene in which they just got onto the boat and there's a clock, a grandfather clock ticking, and as they approach it, it stops, and when he reaches out to touch it, and just before he touches it, the thing strikes 12, and it's really loud, everyone flinches. I liked that. That was a good fake out of what was clearly supernatural, and then it was a nice tension break of, oh, wait a minute, it just is an old broken clock.
Yeah, I agree. Following that scene, they all kind of split up, and there's a scene where Epps and Jack walk into this room with like hanging bags. And at first, like, you don't think anything of it, but then you start to see faces in it, and it kind of looks like there are ghosts in it. At this point, like, they're kind of already feeling this like spooky tension. And so Epps gets scared, and it turns out to be the two goons from her crew, and she gets really mad. But I thought that was a really good jump scare as well, because it got me. I thought they were ghosts until like the very end.
Agreed. Yeah, it did a really good job of jump scares that didn't, reveal that there was a ghost there. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
It had a lot, and Until Dawn had a lot of that,
Mm-hmm.
of jump scares that were actually just friends, and that's why partially why I compared it to Man of Medan, which is by the same studio. One scene that I particularly liked, I don't know if it was spooky, but I suppose it's the closest thing, was when Carl Urban goes he goes scuba diving to fix a leak, and the engine turbine starts up and like grinds him up. Oh, he goes to fix a clogged pump.
Yes.
And when Epps goes to check on him, she doesn't see him, but the pump starts up again and it starts pumping red chunky water. That was pretty good at telling the story without showing his like mangled corpse. Although they did then show his mangled corpse, but
yeah, but the mangled corpse was kind of cool in the way, but I really liked the spookiness factor of that as well. The other thing that I thought was kind of spooky, low-key spooky, when whoever the character was, the mechanic, he was in the engine room fixing the engine.
Santos.
Yes, when Santos, who is the mechanic, was fixing the engine on the tugboat so they could leave with the gold bars, the gas turns on by itself. And the way it was shot was just pretty good because you could kind of hear him moving and doing things, but then you could also hear the crank of the gas turning, but like he didn't notice, and then it was like, oh no, and then they blew up. I really enjoyed that scene.
It was good tension.
Yeah.
You actually reminded me of another issue I had with it, or another example of an issue I had with it, which is Jack's power limitations. So he's telekinetic. He can move things with his mind, but...
So I don't know if that was him or if he got one of the ghosts to do it. Also, the limitations of the ghosts was pretty confusing, so I have no idea.
I just didn't know what to be afraid of because I didn't know the rules. I didn't know what they could do.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I put down that when Francesca kills Greer... I correct myself.
If you do it again, I'm going to stab you.
I'm reading off a list where I spelt it wrong multiple times. Please stab me.
I'm going to make you wear the dunce cap, which just says Carter on it.
That's fine. So when Francesca kills Greer, I originally thought it was kind of spooky, but like looking back, I don't think it's that spooky. I think what I did like though is that she lights a cigarette and that's how he figures out she's there, but he's just way too on board way too quickly for me to be spooked.
I do just want to point out that when you confidently said Greer correctly, you had mispronounced Francesca earlier.
I did?
You said Francesca goes to seduce
I'm
Greer,
done.
and I was like,
I quit.
you
I'm
nailed
out.
Greer. That part was great.
Listen, you haven't messed up enough, so I got to keep the
That's
quota
true.
high.
I don't know why I'm doing well this time.
I don't know. These aren't easy
I know.
names. Usually, though, you mess up like
Tara.
simple stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's my turn, I guess.
hmm
Um,
It's my turn with the brain cell.
Listen, it's just to appease our one hater
Yeah.
who yelled at me for mispronouncing Matthew Lillard
Yeah.
in Scream.
And Ashley and I have talked about Matthew Lillard a lot.
He's
she knows,
one of my favorite actors.
yeah, she knows how to say his name correctly. It's just she misspoke that one time.
Now, well, it's his fault or their fault, whoever they are. That I can't pronounce anything
they're in your
correctly
head
anymore.
now. My curse is lifted, thank God.
No. We need a guest to pass on the curse.
We're going to bring Joe back. Speaking of, I think it's time for the Joseph DeStasio Memorial Dialogue Highlight. And that line is Greer looking at Francesca, about to kiss her, and he goes, "You can't cheat on your fiance with a dead girl."
I asked her. Oh, I'm so mad. I had a feeling that was going to be the line.
Just because I'm highlighting it doesn't make it good, and it doesn't necessarily make it funny. It just is a highlight.
It's the only memorable line of the
runner-up
movie.
was after a long scene of Carl Urban almost falling to his death. They finally pull him up, and he goes, "Oh my God, I shit my pants." That was a good one.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
So this movie is like a really bad bag of potato chips, and you reach in and pull out one where the potato chips are all fused together, and you're like, "Hey, that's cool," and you take a bite, and it tastes good, and then you eat the rest, and it's bad, because it's a bag of shitty potato chips. It has a lot of really good moments, really surprisingly, but at its core, it is just kind of a schlocky slasher movie done poorly.
I agree. There were some moments I really liked. Overall, I was unimpressed by this movie. Carter hyped it up so much. He was like, "We got to do Ghost Ship," and like from like the conception of this podcast, he's like, "Oh, we got to do Ghost Ship." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, haven't seen it. Whatever." I started watching it, and I was like, "What's the hype?" I couldn't find it.
I disagree that you say it's not impressive. I think it's very impressive, just considering what it is, which is a not good movie that has some incredibly well done moments.
That's a good point.
I was telling Ashley that I grade on a curve with horror movies, apparently, and
The thing is, like, this movie's not hateable. You know,
it doesn't do anything so badly that it's awful.
No, it's just a fine movie.
Mm-hmm.
With some scary moments.
Yeah.
I kind of liked the initial vibe of it where it was kind of had that like action hero, like adventure vibe. And I was like, this isn't horror, but I'm down. And then the horror kicked in and I was like, oh, we should have just stuck with the original vibe.
That reminds me, I did mean to mention in the bad, one of the things I didn't like about this movie was it made salvage life look so glamorous.
It really
Epps
did.
is ziplining in, like in Cliffhanger, she's like leaning off her zip tie so that she can weld something.
Yeah, she looked cool.
Yeah, but they made it look way more exciting than what.
You could tell from their physical appearances, though, that it wasn't that exciting. But yeah, you want to move on to some ratings? Did you get everything?
I thought I had more to add with the overall.
I mean, overall, it's a fine movie. The actors were great. That's all I got.
I guess I'll go first for the rating. I gave it 4 shower CD players. I wanted to give it 5, but the movie just kind of doesn't impress overall is some scenes are really good. Some scenes are great. Like the first scene in the movie was one of the best I've seen in a while. But in general, it lacks a lot of polish, and it's just a lot of not good.
I gave it 5 haunted gold bars. I was gonna give it a 6, but
16% is way too harsh on Rotten Tomatoes.
I agree, but
it's not great, but it trends towards mediocre, not bad.
Right. I agree with that. Yeah, it was just kind of, I don't want to say bland, but bland in the sense of horror. The thing is, I think there was too many genres going around on. Like, it wasn't really too much horror, but it also wasn't really too much, like, action. It just was, like, it needed to focus on something, and it didn't, and
I really do like the kind of movies that are slasher butt, and this was slasher butt at sea.
Was it slasher or was it ghost?
It was slasher.
Oh, okay.
It fit the kind of general plot structure of a slasher movie.
Got it.
Which is, unassuming group thinks that they like stumbles upon haunted ground, ignores warnings, their method of escape is taken away, they're killed off one by one.
Okay, fair enough. With a ghost twist.
Yes.
I did like the ghost. I want to do a ghost movie.
We could watch Poltergeist at some point. I haven't seen that.
You haven't seen Poltergeist?
No.
That's actually one of the movies I've seen.
Okay.
but yeah, no, I just felt like there was too much going on. I thought the direction for specific scenes was good, but the direction for the overall movie was
So, I'm sorry, I trailed off, but I really do enjoy those slasher butt films.
Yes.
Another good one is Tremors, which is this story about worms that are kind of terrorizing this town. And it's a slasher movie because it's the exact same format. Unassuming people are haunted by this thing. Their mode of transportation is taken away. One by one, they're picked off. I'm blanking on another, but I love those movies, and I love giving them the benefit of the doubt, but this one was just meh in a lot of ways. And I'm bummed to say that, because I really do like it.
There's a lot to like. It just overall falls a little flat.
Yeah.
All right, I think we can wrap up with that. We've repeated ourselves about 15 times.
Yeah.
So we do have some exciting news as well. I know we talked about our new mic setup earlier, but we also have we have our prototypes of our Horror Sucks shirts, which we're both wearing right now. They are a now mandatory outfit for recording and trivia.
Yeah. It's so douchey when we go into the trivia thing with our Horror Sucks shirt.
Naming our team Horror Sucks Podcast.
Lock eyes with the waiters who recognize us, and we're like, the Horror Sucks Podcast is here.
Yeah, we went last week and without shirts. And I walked in and I was like, oh, I have a reservation. And the guy's like, you're the horror people, right? And I was like, yep, that's us. But now that we have the shirts, it's way better. So hopefully we'll make those available soon, as well as the Bun Run shirts mentioned last week. I know those are highly anticipated, and
I don't know when we'll get those done, but I'm meeting some of the friends who helped me create them the first time around, so that should be promising.
I feel like this weekend you're gonna square that away. We're also working on developing our website, where this will all be linked, and you can listen to our show and kind of get everything there. That'll be cool. Is that it? Any other news?
Not really news, but we are, as we start to improve how we record, we're going to start having some more guests. Probably not as a regular thing, but maybe once a month. It's definitely gonna go better than when we had Joe. Joe was a lot of fun. And this isn't against Joe. It's just really difficult to have 3 people on one mic, especially when one of them is as loud as I am. and so the audio quality wasn't great.
That, and also Joe is really knowledgeable, and which is great.
Careful. Keep in mind he's going to listen to this.
No, Joe, I love you. You're great. You brought up some really great points.
We love you, Joe. Rest in peace, my sweet baby boy.
But we are starting a petition to have Dylan Minnette
Yes.
be our guest, so please
Sign that.
please sign.
Oh, an idea I had. I'm pitching this to you live. So
God.
I said that we would be loose in our definition of horror because, for example, my friend David said that when he was on here, he would like to do Seven, which is arguably a thriller, but it's a fairly easy argument to say that it's a horror movie. That gave me an idea. I think we should allow people to do any movie they want, but they have to make the case to us that it's a horror movie. And if they don't convince us, then we just pepper spray them at the end of the episode. And even if we don't, I just like the idea of them with like sweaty and panicking as they desperately as we just deadpan look at them.
I love this idea because also one of your friends wanted to do Coraline, which there's an argument to be made.
Yeah. I love the idea of Nika just like we sit down, we start recording, and we just set a thing of mace in the center of the table and look at them. And there's just all of a sudden an atmosphere of panic.
I agree. So that leads us perfectly into next week's movie, which is The Craft, which is described as a horror fantasy film. And I definitely think the case can be made. It's also one of my favorite films. So I'm so incredibly excited.
Just keep in mind that if you can't convince me, I'm going to have to pepper spray you.
You're also going to have to call an ambulance. So just be prepared. The Craft is available on Hulu with a premium subscription, on Sling TV with a premium subscription, Stars, Amazon, Philo. All of those are premium subscriptions.
At least last week I was open about it. I'm like, you have to pay $2.99, but Ghost Ship's worth it. Which actually,
The Craft is worth it to pay. But then it's available on Vudu and YouTube and Google and stuff to purchase. The Craft is 100% worth purchasing. It is such a great movie. I think it is one of my all-time favorites, regardless of the genre. It's a 10 out of 10. I'm already giving it my rating. I'm so excited.
I want you to know I'm going to clip that pained. It's a 10 out of 10 over and over and over. That was gold. I don't even think you realized it.
I can't wait. I gotta do more funny voices. Apparently I'm really great at them, i.e. the 10 out of 10 and my bad.
Yeah.
My retake of the bad.
I heard a friend of mine was walking her dog listening to it and it scared her.
That's the goal. I'm so glad. 10 out of 10. I can't wait for our next episode to just end. 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10. 10
Yeah. So, you know what? When we finally get a 10 out of 10 movie, which we're going to tell you ahead of time that it's a 10 out of 10 movie, because there's like 3 of them. It's the original Scream, The Shining, and The Thing. That are like legitimately 10 out of 10 movies.
I would say The Craft, but
we'll see. If it earns a 10 out of 10.
Carter's never seen this movie. I think this is the first movie that I've suggested Carter hasn't seen.
Let's make a ruling now. It has to be a consensus 10 out of 10, right?
Oh, yeah.
To get the mythical 10 out of 10.
Yes, to get the mythical 10 out of 10, it needs to be a consensus.
I'm sorry, the mythical what?
10 out of 10?
Is it 10 out of 10 or is it 10 out of 10?
10 out of 10.
There we go.
I don't even think I whispered it. I think I just said it really soft.
No, yeah, you were just groaning or something.
God.
This is somehow our most unhinged episode.
Just this last 5 minutes, not even. There's no way. I'm sorry. Scream Part 2 is the most unhinged episode.
Yeah, we cut so much out of it.
I cut so much out of it.
Oh, we cut so much that we're thinking about posting like an unedited, just...
Buckle in if you want to listen to like 3 hours.
It's 3 hours, but it's good.
It's not 3 hours, but it is long. Oh, other exciting news. Carter is going to be taking over some of the editing duties. I do have a full-time job and he hasn't started working yet, so it makes more sense for him to do it.
I just want to say I do have a full-time job. My job just hasn't started.
Yeah. Come later this summer, we will be taking turns and you'll find out at the end of the episode.
Yeah. So if you notice the episodes get noticeably more funny, do us both a favor and don't say anything.
I do not cut out the funny parts. I don't know what you mean. You just leave in all the unhinged parts that I don't find funny.
It's going to be a real awakening when I edit this, and I realize that to me, editing out the funny parts is just muting your track and listening to myself over and over and over.
This is what I'm worried about, people. Don't worry. I have control over the posting abilities, so if it's not good, I will then re-edit.
She has a veto ability.
Thank God. It's necessary. Carter's a Leo, if you haven't noticed.
I'm gonna re-record all of your lines, except it's just me doing an Ashley voice.
What is an Ashley voice?
I'm gonna need to practice it. I can't just drop it here.
I can do a Carter voice.
Let's hear it.
Let's hear it.
That wasn't bad.
That's all I can do, though. All right, I think
and I just hope you know that I'm gonna just clip me saying "Let's hear it" and play it again.
Please do.
Okay.
That'll be great.
All right, so I think we finished talking about the movie or whatever.
I think we have too. All right. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed our episode, please rate, review, and subscribe. You can also find us on Instagram at Horror Sex Podcast. And
stay spooky.
Horror Sex is brought to you by Wild Thing Media. Production done by Ashley Atkins and editing done by Carter Rhodes. Thanks for listening.